Hello everyone. Today we're going to focus on reference words and especially on pronouns. So what are they? Let's find out. Let's look at this paragraph and let's think about what's a bit strange about it. I'm going to read. Mike and Dan wanted to eat lunch in the cafeteria, but the cafeteria was closed when Mike and Dan arrived. Instead, Mike and Dan had lunch in the restaurant near the cafeteria, but lunch was more expensive. What do we see here? Now let's read another version of the text. Mike and Dan wanted to eat lunch in the cafeteria, but it was closed when they arrived. Instead, they had lunch in the restaurant near the cafeteria, but it was more expensive. So what's the difference here? We have to look and we have to say, we have they instead of something else, and they, it. And what we have to do is we have to figure out, what does it refer to in the text? What does they refer to in the text? Let's take a look at this. So when we talk about reference words, we often talk about pronouns. Words like she and he and they and her and them and us and it. But actually, what do these words mean? In fact, these words do not have any meaning on their own. The only time they have meaning is when they're in context, because they replace other words in the sentence or paragraph. So if we look at a few examples, Amir ate a sandwich. He liked it. So he in this sentence means Amir, and it in this sentence means sandwich. Sam ate an apple. He said it was good. In this case, he means Sam, and it means apple. John ate a cookie. He ate it. And again here, he refers to John, and it refers to a cookie. So in every single context, the word he had a different meaning, and the word it had a different meaning. So when we read, we have to realize that when we see words like she, he, and they, we have to understand what they mean in that particular context. Because we use pronouns to replace words, so we don't repeat them all the time. But why do we need to do this? Why do we need to understand referencing? Because when we read, it's so easy to get lost or confused when there are many pronouns. We forget what we were talking about. What is that it? What is that he? What is that she? What is that they? So how do we do it? When we're reading a text, mark the pronouns. You can underline them, you can circle them, you can highlight them. And then ask yourself, what word does the pronoun refer to? And then write the word it refers to above the pronoun or draw an arrow. Something like this. So we have Mike and Dan wanted to eat lunch in the cafeteria, but it refers to the cafeteria here. Beforehand, it was already mentioned. So instead of saying the word cafeteria again, we use the word it. But it was closed when they. Who is they? Well, they is plural, so we have to look for two, Mike and Dan, when they arrived. Instead, they, again, Mike and Dan, had lunch in the restaurant near the cafeteria. But it was more expensive. Now here, what do we think? It's the cafeteria because it's closest. But no, what was more expensive, the cafeteria, the restaurant, or the lunch? So if we look and we say, it was the lunch that was more expensive. Sorry, let's go back here. It was the lunch that was more expensive, not the cafeteria. So what happens? Let's take a look at a real text, a real paragraph, and see how it all works in a longer text. Scientific research is when the researcher works in an organized and systematic way to produce information called data. When data are analyzed, they, tell us things. So we have to say, what tells us things? It's data. Data tell us things. We, who's we? It's everybody. Did not know, or we, that means all of us, were unsure about them before. What's them? The things. This new understanding, and here's where some bells need to go off, like ding, ding, ding. And we have to say, what new understanding? What are we talking about? And one of the clues is the word this. This new understanding. And we have to ask ourselves the question, what new understanding? So what do we need to do? Often when we have something like this new understanding, it refers to not one thing or two words, but an idea. So what's the new understanding? It's things we did not know or we were unsure about before. Things we did not know or were unsure about before. So when we see something like this new understanding, we have to stop and ask ourselves, what new understanding? And if we work through a text in a very systematic way, and especially when we get confused and you say, gee, I understand all of the words, but I'm lost, go back and check. Do I understand what all the pronouns refer to? Do I understand expressions or phrases like this new understanding? And if not, stop, go back, consider what it's referring to help you better understand. Yep, you got this. So it's now time for you, when you're reading on your own, to pay attention to those pronouns and those phrases and what they refer